First item on our agenda today is approval of minutes of last week's meeting, not the annual meeting, but the meeting. Anybody have any concerns with that as you reviewed it? Okay, is there a motion to accept it?
I move that we accept the minutes from the last meeting.
Second that.
Okay, all in favor say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Great. And now we need to do the approval of the meeting, of the annual meeting minutes. That was really short. Any concerns with that one? And I'll accept a motion on that.
So moved.
A second.
All in favor say aye.
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 All right. Let's see, Sarah, do you or Kathy have the treasurer's report?
Well, I don't have a copy of it unless we do a screen. Do you want to do it, Kathy? I mean, I've read it.
Okay.
I didn't get anything from you, so I don't know.
I can, if Julia pop it on the screen, then I can tell you. I think there's a lot of it because of the year end and then beginning. But yeah, I can do a quick run through. Let's see. I can see Julia popping it up on the screen. We did end the year with a net income of $47,490, which wasn't unanticipated. And the thing, while Julia is getting that up, that's good actually, because we do now have 2 months of expense on hand. That's something that we've not had in all the years that I've been here. So it's very nice to have that, you know, in the bank should something happen, like a pandemic maybe. But we did end the year, and that's on the balance sheet, and there it is at the bottom. The net income for June of fiscal year 1920 was $47,490.07. And so our total liabilities and capital, we ended the year with nearly $700,000 in the bank. We have a few outstanding, we actually have one outstanding receivable. And we had some payables at the end of the year, but everything ended pretty much in line. And if Julia can go on to the next screen, the actual statement itself, you'll see that total revenues were at 99.5%, which, considering we were closed for March through June, that's great. I was really glad to see that our donations exceeded our projections there, our budgeted amount, and everything else was in line with where I expected it to be at that point in the year. So, and continuing on with expenses, our, does anyone have any questions about the revenues? It was off a little, but you know, 0.5%, we'll take that for sure. And then of course, payroll or personnel is going to be our largest expense for the whole year, any year. And we ended slightly under budget there. And the salary part being at 102% and the hourly at 97.5%, that's where we had a staff member move from hourly to salaried. That wasn't unexpected either. And the slight increase, or we had reduced the medical insurance. And I never know when someone's going to have a birthday and if that's going to work, because this is an age banded rate. And when someone hits a certain age, then that amount does go up per month. So that was slightly over, but the account group itself ended the year under budget, as did all account groups. And the next account group, support services, that's inclusive of supplies and postage, telephone, bank fees, those things that don't fit anywhere else, are mostly just management type of expenses. The audit there for $12,400. Our general liability and contents insurance, the building itself is owned by the city of Johnson City, but we have about $2.3 million insurance on the contents because that's owned by Johnson City Public Library Incorporated. And then the directors and officers insurance, which we do have that for you and for us, and employment practices, that of course came out of there. And our memberships and then our PR budget. And we did spend some money in PR because we anticipated a really fun 125th anniversary year and some celebrations, and we're still celebrating. We're handing out bags and we've got some mugs, so we'll still do some great things with that. So that account group ended about 10% under budget. Building operations, I think I told you that one month our expense for electricity was $2,500, where normally it would be about $5,000. We did see some savings across the line there. However, grounds maintenance, we have a crew that comes in and keeps the grass cut. It looks great. Everything's beautiful. If you haven't been here, stop by. They're doing an outstanding job. And then our maintenance contracts ran just a little bit more because that's anticipated each year. Had we been here to get the renewals, we might have updated that. But that account group itself ended about 8% under budget. And then technical services, that processing supplies, that's where our tech services manager and his folks, they buy things to process the books. And we purchased quite a few electronic materials which didn't require processing. So that account group was significantly under budget. I don't see that happening again this year. It won't be a huge increase, but we will have some print materials that we'll be purchasing. And then the materials and services, we didn't have programs. And you can see that we did spend money on books and non-print and electronic. We just couldn't have our programs. So that's why that account group ended significantly under budget. And then the next one will be our information technology. The LSTA grant, that's a matching grant. And I was really pleased to see that all of that ended where it is. Occasionally it goes over just a little bit, but we're able to get computers for our computer lab, some laptops. So that also ended the year under budget. And the final one, miscellaneous, that just catches everything that doesn't go anywhere else. The Friends of the Library, they provided some funds for some things toward the end of the year, is why that 5708 is just a little bit wonky, but that is inclusive. Those revenues are included in the Friends of the Library giving. That also, that account group is about 9% under budget. So we ended the year with revenues at 99.5%, expenditures at 97.11, and there's that $47,490. And I had already made the adjustments. Whenever the audit's coming up, I do wages payable, which is everything from the payroll, the final payroll in June to June 30, which may be paid in July 1st. So those adjustments have been made, and that gets reversed out in July because we actually pay people. But we ended the year well. It was a little challenging, but I'm happy to say that we did increase our fund balance. You know me, if you don't know me, I love questions about money. I could talk all day about it, but I will stop and entertain any questions you might have.
Questions for Kathy? Okay, I'll accept a motion.
I move we approve the budget, or yes.
Okay, and I'm not sure, anybody seconding?
I second that.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. And now we want to do the Imagination Library
Yes.
report.
That report is pretty straightforward. I have to say Celeste Smedley did an outstanding job keeping the database updated. We had at one point about 5,500 kids enrolled. A good number of those, probably a couple hundred at least, were bad addresses. So when she was able to update the database, clean it up, we ended the year with about 5,240 children enrolled in the Imagination Library. So we have a net income of $4,500. When we can take the ones off the rolls that the post office is going to just recycle that book, that saves us money. We pay 62 cents for a good address, and it's worth every penny, because for the life of the program for one child, it's $60. And if we can pay 62 cents and get a good address or an updated one, then it's worth the money. For the next page, you'll see that the revenues were right on where expected, the city and the county. And the one thing that I will note there, our donations were a little bit down for Imagination Library. The Governor's Books from Birth Foundation did a lot of pass-through money from different organizations that support the program in the state. We didn't get so much of that this year, and we didn't really have miscellaneous revenue. But revenues were at 96% for the year, and expenditures just a smidge under 90%. And we had some postage fees, we had some registration materials. We do try to keep everything at a minimum. And then, of course, the time spent by the staff here is the in-kind contribution to the Washington County Imagination Library program. And I'm very happy that we have that net income for this upcoming year, because we did sustain a cut from the county, which we knew was coming, and I believe that will more than accommodate what we need for the year.
There, I got it unmuted. My dogs were barking. Questions about Imagination Library? Okay, let's have a motion to approve.
I so move.
And a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Great. And now the July report, Kathy.
Okay, now we get to start out the new year. I love it. Fresh money, fresh clean paper, new numbers. It's wonderful. The balance sheet there, if you'll see, we actually have a little over $1 million in current assets. That, of course, is because we get quarterly checks from the city and the county. We haven't received our first county check yet, but I anticipate that will be here pretty soon, because we got their first half of the year for the Imagination Library. Those accounts payable, that is what Celeste Smedley entered prior to the closing of July. And that's just, it's probably already, the checks have been written, and there are no liabilities. The one thing that I'll show you is most of these liabilities are payroll related, and those should always zero out by the end of the month. And if they don't, I'll give you a reason why. Occasionally we have some rounding for Aflac. We'll have a penny here and a penny there, but those liabilities should all zero out by the end of the month. But then the fund balance, that $47,000 from last year, went into the unassigned fund balance. And that was where the increase went. That restricted for Artful Aging, we just haven't been able to spend that yet. That's from a couple, 3 years ago, grant program or project. The ETSU Elevates would have been done this spring, but we couldn't do it. The Dr. Clark funds are still there and earning interest. The East Tennessee Foundation, this non-spendable and restricted, the only difference between last year and this year is there was $100 contribution to that fund and the interest. So that net income that you see here is strictly for the month of July only. The one that you saw for June was how we ended the entire year. This net income is just because we got the city check, which is, you know, nearly $500,000. And yeah.
Kathy, that
Yes.
the Artful Age grant,
Yes, ma'am.
you said it's been hanging around there for about
Well, what happened
3
with it
years?
is we had a, that money was designated for salaries or for programmatic type things for someone to come in and actually do something. And we had a speaker that was going to come in and do a book talk in, was it March or April, Julia? And it was going to take that whole amount of money, and it was all worked out to where it would be gone. And we're just trying to fulfill the exact letter of the grant.
That's why I was asking is the fact that you haven't, I thought you said 3 years. That
Yes, ma'am.
Oh,
It's
but the
coming
fact
up
that you
on
still
that.
have it, okay,
Yeah.
that they haven't asked any questions.
They haven't, and that's a really good thing. The folks that did that, it was sort of a national type thing. And one of our librarians, Lisa Williams, was successful in getting tens of thousands of dollars. And it was a beautiful program. And we really wanted to fulfill the letter of it and make sure that we were spending it in the manner in which it was given. And of course, it's on the audit as well as restricted for artful aging. And this would have allowed us to do that. But we still have plans for this author to come in, and we'll be giving him this money and get it off our books.
Okay.
And then the ETSU Elevates, I'm sure that several of you know about that one. And of course, we didn't get to do that project this spring either. And then you'll see the Clark funds are right back where they were, and the non-spendable and restricted for the East Tennessee Foundation. And that leaves us with capital and our liabilities of $1.2 million, nearly $1.3 million.
Kathy,
Yes, ma'am.
this is Sarah. Where are the restricted funds for the artwork and sculptures that have been donated? Where are those?
That actually is all rolled into the donations, and where that says unassigned fund balance, I actually have a separate program, and Julia will show you a financial statement for our fundraising, and I can pull a report at any given time and tell you how much money's in the Sporrell Memorial Fund.
Yeah.
That was
Okay.
increased by a little over $5,000 because of the Arts Council money. Which was-
Right. Yeah, I knew. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. So we'll need to get that one going, and I'd be happy to kick it up once we,
super.
yeah.
I will give you guys a total on that at the next meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, and of course that is the first month of the new fiscal year, and there you can see the City of Johnson City money and why we have that huge balance there. And we get quarterly money from them, and we are off and running with donations and memorials and just things in general. It's nice to see money coming in. Even though we're closed, we're at nearly, we're a little over 23% revenue. And that's a good thing. Salaries, again, we've had 3 pay periods. This is reflective of the 2 in July. No surprises anywhere. The thing I'll show you, that bank and credit card acceptance fees, because we accept credit cards, we have to be payment card industry certified, PCI compliant. And because of that, I have to do a questionnaire, pay these people money every year, and then prove to anyone that asks, that pings our IP, our 2 providers, that we are PCI compliant, and we are 100% compliant. And that big old chunk of money is what we spend up front to make sure that we are. And that works out well. The audit starts next week, so we're going to spend that $13,000. I'm all ready to go. I'm one of these weird people that actually likes audits, so that's just, I enjoy them. The insurance has been paid for the beginning of the year, contents, directors, officers, everything's all taken care of. So that's why that's at 20%. We're still running a little low there. The gas, electricity, and water, I'm not sure what's going on with those because we did make a payment, but I have a feeling, I apologize, I do know what's going on. When we close a fiscal year, the invoices that we get in July actually reflect electricity, water, and gas that we used in June. So that has to be booked in the old fiscal year for it to not be a management discussion thing with the auditor or some kind of finding. So because we use the majority of the gas, electricity, and water in the old fiscal year, we paid the invoice in the old fiscal year. It catches up eventually, but that's why there's no expense there for gas, electricity, and water. We're still buying toilet paper and paper towels, and we're buying sanitizers, and still paying contracts, still keeping the building going. Not any surprise. Technical services, again, there's where I told you David was going to finally spend some money on processing books. He did. There's a big old chunk there. So we are processing materials. And we're off and running. We're buying books. We are doing as many programs as we can electronically. So there's not a whole lot there. There's some summer reading prizes and some things that are just standard. If you look at 5504 electronic materials, that is strictly database now. Each department has their own fund for electronic materials. So you'll see adult, juvenile, and teen, so that they have their pot of money to get some electronic things to our patrons. And I think that's worked out so well for the librarians, for the managers, and for our patrons, because it's specialized by these wonderful experts that work here. So it's nice to know that they've got some money to spend on those things. And let's see, moving on to, we can tell Eric's not been here. The only IT thing going on is where we paid our annual maintenance for our RFID equipment. And I can't wait for you new folks to come and see this thing. We have some new employees that just stood there with their mouths open. They said, "Oh my goodness, where did this great thing come from? I've never seen this before. You're gonna love it." We all did the same thing when it came in. But we do have an annual fee of about that's not that whole $24,000, but about $22,000 to keep it maintained. And those people come from Atlanta, if we call them post haste, because it has to work. And then miscellaneous, that security line item, those are our extra duty police officers, for which we're very glad that they're here. We've had no issues with our area folks that could have been. The homeless population, the transient population, they've been actually quite nice, and they use the Wi-Fi. They've not caused 1 minute's problem. And I have to say, our officers, there's the occasion that someone can't work on a day, and even when they're not here, these folks have been very good. But the officers, it's a wonderful thing to have them on board. So our net income so far for the year is $335,000. Now that budget there, that $32,190, that's what we're projecting that we're going to use our fund balance. That's the money from the year that we just ended, because we didn't get all the money we asked for from the city or the county. We did from the city, but not the county. And we are going to use our fund balance for the Artful Aging, for the ETSU Elevates grants, and for other things for which we didn't have enough from the city, but we do have our fund balance. I'll stop. I love to talk about it.
Okay, questions?
I just had one question about the technical services at 51.92. Could you explain that a little bit? Because it was, way above everything else.
The processing supplies there, David?
Yeah, the electronic materials was 5504.
Oh, sure. When we do the databases, that's a one-time upfront fee. July is that big time of the year where we have to renew everything at the beginning of the fiscal year. So that would be any database that you can access remotely. Julia, I'm at a loss. Which ones are we have?
So that's going to be the language one.
Yes.
And the that's going to include Ancestry, which is our big one on there. And then there was not the Auto Trader. I don't have it in front of me. It's the only databases that we've kept. We've pared them down quite a bit.
Right.
A couple of years ago, it was closer to $10,000, and so we've been away at them as the users.
You're saying they're like annual fees?
Correct.
Yes, sir. That's the annual upfront fee, and we pay that at the beginning of the year for several things. That's it's contractual in some respects, but this is just gets us a year's worth. Does that answer?
It's the beginning of every fiscal year, then.
Yes, it is.
Okay,
absolutely.
that makes it totally clear then.
Okay, super.
Other questions? Can I have a motion to accept July's report?
I'll motion that.
Okay, David? Second?
I'll second.
Okay, Georgia, I think. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right.
All right, and Imagination Library.
Last one. We're off to a great start. We are at 5,000. You know what? I'm going to tell you from the actual invoice. 5,247 children enrolled in the Imagination Library in Washington County. And we get new enrollments every single month from the birthing hospitals So that's going to fluctuate. That'll go up and down. But there is a slight increase in the fee. So this month's was the expense is $5,443.61. The one that, if Julia will show you, I think it was probably close, the July amount. So if you'll roll that up just a little bit, Julia, I think it'll show the expense there. Okay. Yes, it's pretty much the same. It's holding fairly steady at about $5,400 to $5,500 per month. And the Governor's Books and Birth Foundation pays half of the amount for the library for Washington County. And then we raise the other half, which is mostly from the city and county. So the actual cost for this county is really $10,800 for those 5,247 kids to get a book every month. And we're paying the half of it. And so there we go. We are at the city did send the first payment, and Washington County sent $10,000, and that will be reflected on your August statement, and that's half a year's worth. And they did cut the Imagination Library $7,500. We got $4,500 in our fund balance from last year. That $3,000 will be fine. And if we need to raise money, I'll be out there beating the bushes. But that's money in, money out.
Okay, thank you. Questions? We've been getting a lot of publicity about Dolly's been busy.
Yes.
Advertising it. I've seen several different things about the library, not necessarily us, but the Imagination Library.
Yes, and the children, if you talk to any kid that's been enrolled for any amount of time, they want to read you the book, or they're going to recite the book because they find their favorites and they just love them. And it prepares every single child under the age 5 for kindergarten and gives them all the same head start. So it's a labor of love. We love this program. That's the one that administration gets to work with. We're not the folks downstairs doing those programs, but if we can behind the scenes help kids to get books in their home, then it's definitely a labor of love. And Celeste Medley does an outstanding job with that.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? A motion to accept, please. I'll make the motion. Second?
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Julia, tell us what's going on.
Lots of things. First of all, I checked on those databases. I hate not knowing the answer to a question, and I know exactly where to find it, but I was afraid to do it on this computer, so that's why I was over there. And the 3 databases are Universal Class, which has a whole big scope of like tests and study prep and things like that, and all kinds of great training, Heritage Quest and Ancestry.com. So that they're not inexpensive. Those are the ones that are still being used pretty heavily, so that we have maintained. At this point, we are going pretty strong. I sent you earlier just a glimpse at the circulation report for the facility for the last month. Did you want to go over the annual giving summary first? I just looked at my agenda and I saw it there.
Oh, yes, I had forgot about that. Yes.
It's not it's not an action item, but I'll mute it so Kathy can.
Let me pull my copy out. I'm so sorry. Last year, and of course it's not an action item, but we did go over our goal of $25,000 by $4,234. And we had 97 donors to our annual campaign, and the total received was $29,234. And we had 2 $5,000 donors. And those folks, anyone giving $5,000 or more goes on our corporate 990. And we met 116.94% of our goal. So it was great. And we'll be coming up with an annual report. Well, Julia and our crack media staff will be coming up with an annual report really soon. And you may see some words from our president, Tony Warner, in there. So we're looking forward to that. The annual report's a lot of fun as well. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun, and it does let people know how relevant we are in in Johnson City.
Interesting to see whether the pandemic has a positive or negative impact on this year's donations.
You know, it seems that if you look in general at giving, people are giving to different things.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that will affect us so much, but they're giving to different organizations, and it could be less. The thing is, I think with our fund balance where it is, we'll weather a year. If we don't get $25,000, then we will weather that because of being closed and because of the savings that we had last year. I don't have any misgivings about this upcoming financial year. I'm hoping the county will give us back that $7,500 for Imagination Library, make it status quo, and we're really good at living within our means here and pinching pennies. The staff's works for so many years with budgets that I think they do a darn fine job. So, but yeah, it may not be as much, but we're going to try.
Yep. Okay. Julia.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that. Would have mentioned it sooner. So, so we're still operating through curbside service and providing books and materials as well as print jobs to folks through curbside, and it's going well. We saw a pretty significant increase from June to July, which it's hard to compare to last year because we were open last year. So that is reassuring. That shows me that people are building us back into their routine. We also introduced the service called book bundles midway through. We really started promoting it midway through July. So this is still relatively new, but we saw a bump pretty quickly. And book bundles is that we put a form on our website, or if people can call, and we're kind of just curating a selection of materials for them. So it's kind of like some of the women may know, like Stitch Fix or Trunk Club. It's like we choose it for you and send it to you, and if you don't like it, you don't have to read it, but just bring it back when you're done, kind of thing. And people are really, really enjoying it, and whole families are getting involved. So they'll request materials for, their 8-year-old, something for their teenager, something for mom that wants a few new great nonfiction reads, and dad who's interested in this but not this. And then the librarians all kind of pull together and they select the titles for the family, and then they get them all checked out as a batch. And so it's going well. So, our overall circulation, of course, is down 42% from last year, but I am so encouraged by that 18% increase over last month across the board, and really excited about the 28% increase in adult in particular. We know with the little guys that the parents are going to be checking out a lot of those kids' books as they're going back to school and for some reading program. And so to see the bump in adult made me particularly excited, because prior to COVID, we were sort of struggling with our adult circulation. We were experiencing very small incremental decreases. So this is a number that I was really excited about. I'm excited, of course, to see increases in juvenile, digital, and teen, but that adult one was really a happy moment for me to see that. And so, but we can continue, and it still had that increase in digital checkouts, which are primarily adult users. You may have noticed from the previous but the report that Kathy gave, when we looked at those electronic materials purchases, youth services has not yet spent any of their money. There was $1 on there, and I'm not really sure how that happened. She must have found like a great 99-cent bargain or something. I don't know. So that's an odd number to see on a budget.
It's a $1 replacement disc.
There we go. And part of the reason is because we're kind of waiting to see, as the schools get rolling, what they're going to need from us with regard to those electronic materials as well. We've reached out to all the PTOs and the school media specialists, and then Betty she's got another little scheme to reach out to the media specialists again, so that, they have so much going on right now. We recognize that we are not high on their list of priorities to follow up with. So we want to make sure that we're following up with them, so that if there is a way that we can further support them, we are doing that. So that's kind of where we are right now. I think we're operating well, given the circumstances. We're certainly feel busier than we did last month. Saturdays have really picked up, so we're talking about scheduling changes to make sure we have enough staff here. Part of the way this whole process works is in order to answer the phone and pull books for book bundles and then make sure curbside is still getting all of their holds processed and put into that sorting room. It takes a lot of moving parts. It's kind of like an assembly line spread across the whole building right now. So I'm just tickled that it's working as well as it is. And I know
How
the
many
staff.
does that take at a minimum to make all that happen?
How long?
How many are on duty at any one time?
That's a great question. I think that we need a minimum of 1, 2. If you're getting something from one department, I would say 6. But if for the whole building to do it, it's going to, I mean, bare bones, probably 14 people to make it work at a time. Do you think that's about right, Kathy? 14? I mean, that would be our skeleton crew. It's going to be 14 people in the building. And so the limited hours have really helped us with that so that we can do it more efficiently. And then that doesn't count the fact that, our staff is also maintenance people, technical services staff, admin, marketing, and all the other things that they're doing, because they're still designing programming and filming story time and doing all that other stuff. And now we're delivering materials to childcare centers too. So there's a lot of other things happening not related to that part of the process. So we're still, it doesn't feel like we've slowed down at all. And that's what's kind of crazy. It's just the work has changed so much, but it's exciting and it's fun for staff. So that's happening. I don't know why I'm changing gears. It took me too long to think that I should have our former our specialist in IT run a report to look at our website analytics over the last 6 months. And so I thought, I should have Logan run that. And then when I did, it was startling to see that at this point on our website usage, almost half of our visitors were visiting from a mobile phone. So since the pandemic has happened, most of them are using it. And so it was like a just mind-blowing moment. So then, and that's this report here, which was exciting to see. So we had 33% of our users were on iOS, and then another 17 were on Android. I'm going to have them run it again in about 2 months to see how many of our users are visiting from a Chromebook, which is the kind of laptop that the schools have issued to students. So we can get a sense of whether those kiddos are visiting our website. Sneaky ways to figure it out. So then the really fun thing is I had him run this thick report for me, which is all of the layers of our website, so we can see what people are visiting the most. And now we know as we go through and make our website more mobile friendly, we can prioritize. So if we know most people are on a cell phone, this is the web page they're going to, we've got to figure out how to make it more mobile friendly. Because I don't know if you all have visited our website from your phone. It's not ideal. I've seen worse, but we could be doing better. So now we have some tools in place to help us revisit how we can slowly pick at updating our website a little bit to help those users out. So that's the scoop with the current situation. I have been watching the data, as I'm sure you all have, and right now we are still well above that. The EpiCurve data in Washington County, the last, it just refreshed on me. I was going to look at it so I wouldn't tell you incorrectly. Washington County is at 27.64 new cases per day over the last 14 days. So we're still pretty high. So I feel comfortable with what we're doing at present. And I think it's sustainable, and I feel like we're doing it well. So I'm, comfortable with how things are going right now in the facility and with the organization. But I'd be curious to hear if you guys have heard anything differently from the community about the library in particular, or if you have ideas for how we can enhance what we are doing at present to serve people. That was a pretty fast and intense presentation.
I think you're doing a fabulous job.
Well, thank you. So what questions do you guys have? I know I threw some data at you. I also gave you the OWL chart, which was Kathy Hall's favorite chart. That was in the report, and that shows how we are comparing with some of the other libraries in the region. And and I think, we're still doing well. Kingsport and Bristol have opened up the facilities to the public. Kingsport is doing I think it's, Amy, you might have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's by appointment is how they're doing most of their services in the facility. But they have reported that they were sort of pleased that just the throngs of people have not been coming into the building at once. And Elizabethton, of course, had to close and then has reopened, which is great. They had a case on staff.
Questions for Julia? Thank you.
Okay. One last thing, I did send out a doodle poll about the trustee certification, and only 4 of you responded, but I think there might be more that need to know. Maybe not. It might just be one other that didn't. So right now the front runner is on Saturday the 29th, but I'll confirm that with you all if that will still work, and we'll get that set up. But it'll be Zoom, so you can do it from home. It's no problem. You won't have to drag over here at 8 a.m. on a Saturday.
Julia,
Yes, ma'am.
this is Sarah. I'm assuming that since I've done it, I do not need to repeat it every year.
You do not need to repeat it.
Good. Thank
You're off the hook.
Good.
Mhm.
Okay. I don't have anything in particular to tell you. Julia and I've done a couple of conversations. I did come to see Julia a couple of weeks ago to sign something, and the officer was parked out in the parking lot. I got out of my car and walked up and to look at Julia's window. And I thought about chunking a rock up to see if I could get her attention, and he was staring at me. So I decided not to do that and went over to the meeting room where some of the staff are working and got their attention. But I was pleased that the officer was there and noticed me.
I'm sure you look really dangerous there, Tony.
That's right. Well, it was depending on the size of the rock.
Right, the boulder.
Yeah.
Tony was here signing our new technology grant, which is that LSTA money that we can use to purchase technological equipment each year. And it's a 50% grant. So this year we've chosen to apply for money to help cover the cost of some new laptops for staff. We've got some aging staff workstations anyway, and it seemed like the right opportunity to switch over to laptops. So that's what we were trying to get, and a couple extra monitors for some folks too. So not as robust as I'm sure Eric would have written, but this is what I knew that we needed pretty quickly. So that's what we're applying for.
Amy, what's going on in your world?
Okay. I just have a couple things. We finally got our training plan all approved. So we are moving forward with training for the first quarter anyway, probably extending a little further than that. We will be offering training virtually. We may move into a hybrid situation depending on the speaker, where we have some in-house and some out. But for right now, we're doing as much out virtually as possible. So our first training is Thursday. It is QPR for suicide prevention training, and that's available to anybody. I still can take requests for that. So if you are interested in attending that is with the Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network, and that'll be Thursday morning from 8:30 till noon. It will be done over Zoom, and if you are interested in that at all, please just let me know your name and email address, and I will add you to my list to send over to Molly Colley at the Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network. So that is again on Thursday. We are also looking at some grant writing training coming up in October, I believe. We have leadership training in the spring. We're going to do a collection development extravaganza where we're going to talk about all aspects of collection development, and I'm hoping that we can get HarperCollins to do a book buzz for us. So we're going to try to have some fun with that in the spring, and hopefully we can do it in person. Um,
So collection development, exactly
yes.
what is that?
That is all aspects of building up your library's collection, from
Okay.
purchasing, acquisitions, reader's advisory, finding out what your patrons like, weeding at the back end of it, when it's time to let go with love of those books that just aren't circulating anymore. So it's all aspects of your collection. So, so we've got a bunch of great programming coming up, and we will keep letting you know what that is as it comes along. So, so again, the one on Thursday is QPR for suicide prevention. I am this close to having a trustee orientation manual completed, and hopefully we'll be able to get that to you next month. But the only other thing is, as you know or may not know, the option for virtual board meetings expires on the 29th of this month. We are hoping that he'll still extend it. It's a governor's executive order, and he often doesn't tell us until the very deadline. So, so as soon as I hear something either way, I'll let you all know. I'll pass it on to Julia, and hopefully we can continue with Zoom meetings. But if that expires, we probably won't be able to. But we will keep you informed of that as soon as we hear anything. Unfortunately, he's not on my timetable, so I don't get to tell him when he needs to let us know. Other than that, if there are any questions for me, I will be glad to take them. If you need me for anything at all, you all know how to find me. Thank you.
Okay. No questions for Amy. Amy, those workshops that you were doing that you mentioned, could you send those, the ones that are firm and are going to happen, send those to Kathy so she could put them in the minutes and we could see what's coming and what our options are?
Yes, absolutely. I will have Sarah. I think Sarah usually sends those out, but I'm not sure of who is all on her list.
Yeah.
So I will make sure that Kathy is added to her list, and then Kathy can forward them to whoever.
And Tony, I can start sending that to the board if you all are interested too, as I get them from Sarah. Ordinarily, I just send them on to the staff, but if you have interest, I'd be happy to pass
Yeah,
them on.
I'd be interested in what's available.
Yeah. Amy, do you know if they're thinking about
I
doing
would
like
be
a
as
trustee
well.
workshop? I'm sorry, you would be as well, David?
I would be as well interested. I was interested in suicide, but I can't do the one this week.
I can send it to everybody. Amy, do you know if they're planning on doing a trustee workshop this year?
No, they it was originally canceled because they were supposed to be opening the new State Library and Archives building in Nashville. So they were going to be busy in November with moving and getting situated in the new building. And then the new building got hit by a tornado and COVID happened. So it's been pushed back to spring, but they're still not planning on doing a trustee workshop this year.
Okay. For the new folks, the trustee workshop is, I don't know if it's statewide or region-wide, but it has folks like Julia and you that are invited to come and meet with other board folks and other directors. There's some workshops and usually a good speaker. So it was always, I went one year, a couple of years ago with Kathy, and it was very interesting and would be worthwhile.
So this is more like a conference of sorts, as opposed to what
Yeah,
we're
it was a
planning
day
for
long.
Saturday or the next Saturday.
Yeah, it's a one-day workshop, and they usually have a repeat, so different regional other directors from around the area get together, and they have a speaker and go through a couple different sessions, and they give you lunch. But it's a great opportunity to get to talk with other board members. It's sort of a unique experience, even across libraries for board members. So it's good. It's a good time, and they're always worthwhile. I always take something away from them, even as a director going to them. They're good.
Julia, you want to go into old business and tell us about, I think we all are aware of where we stand, but
Sure. Just the kind of the latest. As I mentioned earlier, we are still above that nursing home threshold, but we are seeing kind of hopefully the start of a little bit of a decline in cases in the area. I think parents in particular are frustrated that their children are not in school, and so have embraced the mask when perhaps they were hesitant before. And that's good so far. However, we do have a lot more young people returning to the area, I think, in the coming weeks with ETSU and reopening and that kind of thing. So there's much to see what happens, but I'm feeling hopeful. However, I'm not sure that it's the right moment for us to reopen the facility. When Tony and I spoke earlier and last week, right now we're really focusing not so much about the reopening strategy, because I think our plan at this point is good. We're ready. We have our floor decals and our big signage and our marketing strategy all laid out. So I think we know what to do when the moment comes. But one thing that I'm not sure why we hadn't fully considered is what to do when we start having staff diagnosis and staff cases, because we know we want to quarantine other staff, but what does that look like in terms of redeployment and keeping the facility open, or at least offering curbside? As I mentioned earlier, it takes, skeleton crew of 12 to 14 to do curbside. And then for the whole day, perhaps a lot more people. And so depending on where we had a case, which department, and whether the person is full-time or part-time, and then their close contacts are full-time and part-time, we just don't really know. And what I don't want to happen is what happened in Elizabethton, where the city just said, well, the whole staff is close contact, so you're shutting down with no notice. I think that would be a tragic situation, and I would like to avoid that. So the staff have done an excellent job of spacing, but we've sort of been getting conflicting messaging on how we define close contact, because we were told initially it's 10 minutes together within 6 feet with or without a mask. So we are wearing the mask, but it's still close contact. And then we were told that it's actually really more cumulative. And it's like, okay, so cumulative of what? Like 1 second passing a hallway, or cumulative of a 1 minute conversation or a 30-second conversation, because it's not very many 30-second conversations throughout an 8-hour workday. And so we've been listening in on the school planning sessions on Wednesdays that the community has had, and I've gotten a lot of good information now, but it sort of sounds as though they're backtracking to a true 10-minute chunk of time. But just that uncertainty makes me uncomfortable when making a decision whether or not to quarantine staff who may or may not be a close contact to someone. I would rather just go ahead and say you need to be quarantined rather than run that risk of then infecting more staff. So what we have done is identified folks in every department that can be trained in circulation, because our ability to pull the book bundles and holds and all of that quickly is less important to me than maintaining curbside. So I'm willing to give up our ability to pull books within a few hours and get them out to folks if that means we can maintain curbside service. So we have folks from other departments that are going to be cross-trained on how to answer the phones and field the calls from the folks in the parking lot, so that we can keep that. That's sort of the most mission critical thing that we're doing right now. So that's sort of where my brain is and where our staff is right now, focusing on how we're planning to adapt yet again to the pandemic. All this to say, my recommendation would be to stay closed for the time being and revisit it again. If we continue to see that hopeful decline, then maybe that might be the moment to talk about it. But right now, we have close to 1,000 active cases still in Washington County, so it just doesn't feel like the right moment to me.
Well, and then we have to see how well Georgetta and Scott and Daryl maintain the control of campus and parties, and we have high expectations of the three of you. So,
and then when
let me
too.
let me tell you, with the classes I teach, there's no partying gonna be going on.
Okay.
They're not gonna have time to party.
More homework.
Same here.
Right.
Thank you, Daryl. We're really counting on you. More essays.
I tell them at the end of every class, keep yourself to yourself.
Yeah. It'll be interesting with even with so many of the ETSU classes being taught online in the fall, there will still be an influx of people coming into the city, coming onto the campus. And my big worry is that you will have knuckleheads who will not heed the advice of health professionals and get other people sick. And I think we've already seen that. And I've had a few disturbing anecdotal stories from people I know in the city where they've been telling me that their coworkers and employers, things like that, have been telling them not to report that they feel ill. Things of that nature. And that doesn't get into the people who think that COVID is just simply a democratic thing.
Yeah, crazy.
Julia, in regards to staff, and I only mention this because this is what the bank did, well, a particular bank. They had enough branches where any two people who did the same job who previously were sitting side by side got deported to different branches. And I know that we don't have more than one library site, but is there potential to have people who do technically the same job sit in different locations where they wouldn't necessarily be in contact with each other? Because that was the biggest concern, at least for them, especially in the beginning with the funding, was we can't have more than one person who does the same job out, because then what will we do?
Right. We've begun quite a bit of that with social distancing. So like technical services immediately comes to mind. They've done a great job of staggering schedules, and then the two people who know how to do the most work in offices with doors closed, so that we can keep them as separated as possible. And so that's one of the, and we've talked about before, with this building, we have the luxury of really spacing people out. So in the circulation department, they all know how to do everything. And the workroom, as we have completely dismantled and rearranged so that they have more space to work further from each other than they did before. For those of you who have seen the workroom, I don't know if you remember, but to the side there was some cubicles where folks would work. Those are just gone now. We got rid of all of them and opened that space. We put one wall, and then there's just workstations long so they can work even further from each other as they're doing processing courier and then holds in this area. So with staggered schedules, we are kind of working toward that. But that's a really great point. And that might be something to talk about, Kathy, to identify if there's other, I think about you and Celeste Medley in particular, because with the, a lot of the financial stuff, the two of them kind of run the show, and payroll processing and things. So we should be mindful of that.
Celeste works from home, so she's not even here today.
Yeah.
And we're trying to do that as well. And that way, if one of us has to be out, the other one can be here.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're doing a really good job, and I don't see people out without a mask. Even our police officers have cooperated. Anyone coming in the building's wearing a mask the entire time they're here. And I know that doesn't address the staff part, but I have a good feeling that we're not staying in close proximity to one another for more than just a few minutes. And at that point, we're 6 feet away. Right. And it's just to get the business done and move on.
One of the biggest concerns we had was, we were down a janitorial position, and if something happened to our facilities manager, that would shut the whole building down really quickly. And so we just hired and are training a new janitor. And he's picking it up very quickly. So I'm looking forward to when he's fully trained, so that if nothing, even if he doesn't know how to completely manage like the HVAC system, he will have notes to get in there if there's an emergency situation and manage that system. So I know our facilities manager is relieved to have that extra layer of support too. Yes, Sarah.
Yes. So
have there been other hirings? Because I heard of one.
Yes, we've had several hirings.
Yeah.
We are fully staffed, so we're thrilled to pieces about that. Kathy has done nothing but new hire paperwork because we sort of had that backlog of 6 months of hirings. So we've hired, we have Hunter Hall, who's helping out in ITE right now. We hired a young woman named Carly Jessup, who's going to be helping out in adult services, and a young woman named Amani Patel. Is Carly the one that you know? You're kind of nodding. Yeah.
Hunter. I know Hunter, and I know the other gal. Yeah.
Yeah. And then a young woman named Amani Patel, who'll be working in adult services. And we've hired Eric
Green.
Sorry?
Green.
I wanted to say Lawson, and I don't know why. Eric Green is our new janitorial staff member, and we just hired Amy Taylor, who is our new teen services manager, and we just hired Emery LaPrade, who we stole from Washington County, and as our new acquisitions clerk down in technical services. Did I miss anybody?
We may have stolen Eric Green from the city of Johnson City.
We kind of stole Eric Green from the city.
Yeah, where we got our facility manager too. He was trained well there, so he came in gangbusters and is working so well. The building smells so clean. It smells like Murphy's oil soap and sanitizer. It's nice.
We're tickled. We're just glad to have a full staff, and it's going to be good.
It seems like we're busier and people work harder than when we were open. It's just the weirdest thing. We don't have time to do meetings so much, or maybe extra things, because we're just carrying on. The days go by so quickly, you look up and it's over. It's not anything we expected. I expected.
New business, any other items?
No, next month I'll be sending out a policy revision for our hotspot policy, but other than that, I think we're good as far as all that kind of stuff for right now. I think I mentioned before, I've been working with this group of people on diversity and inclusion and throughout the region, and they meet, it's the Diversity and Inclusion Alliance. Some of you may have heard of it before, but it's been a really amazing opportunity and great way for me to learn more about tangibles that we can do as an organization. Our values are very D&I focused, but we haven't done a great job as an organization of making sure that our policies reflect that value. So as I start doing more policy review again, because we have the matrix, I do want to have an eye particularly paying attention to D&I. So if you have any specific ideas of policies you have seen in other workplaces or practices beyond just a Title VI statement and that kind of thing, I would love to get your input on that, just to make sure that I'm not missing something simple that we could do to help. Thank you, Daryl. To focus on equity and inclusion in the workplace here. And I'm thinking more in terms of our policies for the staff and less the public service policies, but certainly the two would happen in tandem.
I think we've all become more sensitive to terms that are used that may or may not be in the policy statement. So I would say a read looking for terminology to make sure that it's appropriate.
Just fresh eyes would be really helpful. And so that might be something that even if it's not an official review of the policy, maybe we could just get in the habit of picking at a couple of them a month and just seeing if anything jumps out at you. An opportunity to improve is always appreciated. Not that there's anything wrong with the current policy, but how could we make it better?
Yeah, I think so. All right. Anything else, folks? We're going to let Georgina get back to the beach and take a swim, and I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Okay.
Nice second.
All in favor?
Peter, I'm coming to your beach place.
I'm right on.
All right. Thank you, folks. Have a great
Bye.
month.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Hey,
you.
everybody.
Thanks, y'all.